All right, so we're diving into tool and die maker interview prep today using these great RoleCatcher resources.
Definitely a cool career path, blending that hands-on skill with some serious brain power.
Absolutely. And we're going to break it all down for you, like what they actually do day to day, the work
Mm.
environment, even some pros and cons.
It's a field that's always evolving, too. Got to stay on top of the latest tech like CNC machines and CAD software.
And that's where RoleCatcher's AI comes in, right?
Yeah.
Analyzes those job descriptions and picks out the skills you want to highlight.
Exactly like having a personalized coach telling you what to focus on. Plus, you get feedback on your practice answers so you can really refine everything.
Okay, so first question from the RoleCatcher guide. It's for mid-level candidates. Can you describe your experience with CAD software?
This one's all about your technical know-how. I mean, think about it. 74% of tool and die makers use mechanical knowledge daily, according to RoleCatcher's Career Guide. They want to see how comfy you are with design software, and more importantly, how you've actually used it, in a real manufacturing setting.
So not just listing off the programs you've used.
Right. Don't just name drop. Focus on projects where you used CAD to actually design tools or dies. Did you tweak a design to make it more efficient? Come up with a totally new solution to a tough problem? Those are the stories they remember. And don't forget to quantify the impact. Did your design save money, improve quality, or even speed up production?
Makes sense.
Mm.
What about follow-ups? Like if they want to dig a little deeper.
Be ready to talk specifics, CAD features, challenges you've faced, and different design approaches, how you stay current. RoleCatcher's Career Guide even recommends workshops and courses to keep you ahead of the game.
All right, so you've aced the CAD question. Now they hit you with this one also mid-level. What experience do you have with CNC machines?
Another technical one? And super important these days with CNC machines everywhere. They're looking for a clear understanding of how to program and run these things.
Is it similar to the CAD question then and how you should answer?
For sure. Concrete examples are key. What types of CNC machines have you used? 3-axis, 5-axis lathes mills. Talk about the complexity of what you've done. Any problems you hit during machining. How'd you solve them? They're also checking out your attention to detail and your ability to work with that crazy precision you need as a tool and die maker. Weave that into your answer.
Sounds like practice is key. What about follow-ups on this one?
They might get into specifics, programming languages,
Yeah.
or ask you to walk them through how you tackle a certain machining task. And don't be surprised if they ask about troubleshooting malfunctions. Think back to your experience. What were some tough spots you had to fix on the fly? That real-world stuff will impress them.
Okay, now let's look at an entry-level question. Can you explain your experience with precision measuring tools? Seems basic, but I bet there's more to it than meets the eye.
Totally. It might seem fundamental, but this question gets at the heart of being a tool and die maker. It's all about accuracy and being meticulous. Remember RoleCatcher's Career Guide. 54% of tool and die makers use quality control analysis and math skills every day. So when they ask about those tools, they're checking if you get tolerances and working within those super fine margins.
So how do you show that meticulousness in your answer?
First, list the tools, calipers, micrometers, dial indicators. Show them, your stuff. Then make it real with examples of how you've used them to be accurate. Maybe you measured something down to 1/1000th of an inch or used a special technique to spot tiny inconsistencies. This is where you shine a light on your commitment to quality and those little details that make a big difference.
I'm seeing a theme here. Be specific. Use examples. Connect it back to the core skills. What about follow-ups for this one?
They might ask about specific measuring techniques. Be ready to explain why you'd use one over another. They might even give you scenarios where precision is super important and ask how you'd handle them. And of course, be prepared to talk about calibration, making sure your tools are always spot on.
Okay, this is where it gets interesting. This mid-level question really digs into your problem solving. Can you discuss a time when you had to troubleshoot a problem with a tool or die?
This one is all about seeing those analytical skills in action. Tool and die making is problem solving central. So they want to know how you think on your feet and tackle those challenges.
So storytelling is key again, right? How do you approach this one and really wow them?
Pick a specific example, a real head scratcher. Then walk them through your thinking. How'd you find the root cause? What steps did you take to diagnose it? What solutions did you consider? And why did you go with the one you did? And of course, what was the result? Make it a compelling story. Highlight your resourcefulness, your ability to analyze and solve those complex problems.
And the curveball follow-ups. What should people be ready for?
They might ask about other problem-solving methods, or how you'd handle the same situation differently if you had a do-over. Be prepared to talk about working under pressure, too. How do you keep your cool when things go wrong? And don't forget, RoleCatcher's AI can help you refine these answers and really showcase those problem-solving skills in a way that speaks to that specific company.
Well, let's move on to another mid-level question. Can you explain your experience with progressive dies? Sounds pretty specialized.
It is. This one's for the experienced folks. Progressive dies are complex systems for high-volume manufacturing, intricate stuff that needs a high level of expertise. They want to know if you've got the skills and knowledge to work with these tools.
So someone with this level of experience, how do they approach this without overwhelming the interviewer?
It's all about presenting your experience clearly and concisely. Start with the types of progressive dies you've designed and made. What were the biggest challenges you faced in creating and maintaining them? Did you come up with any process improvements that made things more efficient or saved money? This is your chance to show off your mastery of those advanced techniques.
Okay, specificity is key. And those follow-up questions.
Be ready to go deeper into specific aspects of progressive die design, strip layout, pilot release, die sensing, things like that. And they might ask about high-speed stamping operations, how you ensure the quality and consistency of the parts you're making. This is where your expertise really shines.
All right, let's talk about a question that's all about time management. Can you describe a time when you had to work on a very tight deadline? Deadlines are pretty normal in manufacturing, I'd imagine.
Absolutely. Deadlines are constant in this field, and they want to see that you can handle pressure and still deliver A-plus work. It's all about assessing your organizational skills and how you stay on track when things get hectic.
So how do you structure your answer to make those skills really stand out?
Think of a project where you faced a crazy tight deadline. Explain the challenges, the steps you took to manage your time, the strategies you used to stay on schedule. Did you delegate, put in OT, come up with a whole new approach to get it all done on time? Emphasize your adaptability and your commitment to meeting deadlines no matter what.
I'm sure they have some follow-ups for this one. What should folks be ready for?
They might ask about your experience with different project management methods, or how you juggle competing priorities without letting anything slip. Be ready to talk about your communication style, especially when the pressure's on. How do you keep everyone in the loop and make sure everyone's on the same page when time is tight? Clear communication is key.
Okay, let's tackle another question that tests those practical skills. Can you discuss your experience with welding and fabrication? I'm guessing they want more than just a yes or a no here.
You got it. Welding and fabrication, those are must-have skills. They want to know you can handle those tasks.
So how do you answer this to really showcase your skills?
Don't just say you're a good welder. Get specific. Describe the techniques you've mastered. MIG, TIG stick welding. Lay it all out. What about your experience with different metals? Have you done sheet metal fabrication, bending, shearing? The more details you give, the better they can picture what you can do.
And to make it even more impactful,
Give them examples from past projects. Did you weld super intricate parts that needed a steady hand and pinpoint accuracy? Did you make custom jigs or fixtures to improve a process? Or maybe you even saved the day by fixing damaged tooling using your welding skills. Those stories show off your practical abilities and how you adapt to different challenges.
I bet those follow-up questions are coming. What should people be ready for?
They might get curious about the specifics of those welding techniques. When would you choose one over another? What are the challenges of welding certain materials? Be prepared to talk about working with different metal thicknesses and safety precautions. Show them you're all about safety first.
All right, let's wrap up this set of questions with one that goes into another specialized area. Can you explain your experience with heat treating and surface grinding? These sound pretty technical.
They are, but also super important for making top-notch tools and dies. This one goes hand in hand with welding and fabrication. Another way to see your practical experience with the processes that really matter in this field.
So it's about understanding how these techniques affect the metal you're working with, right?
You gotta see. Heat treating and surface grinding are used to fine-tune a metal's hardness, durability, dimensional accuracy, even the surface finish. They want to know you've got a solid grasp on these concepts and how they play out in the real world of tool and die making.
How can you really knock this answer out of the park and show off your expertise?
Let's start with heat treating. Describe the methods, annealing, hardening, tempering. Explain them and give specific examples of how you've used them. Maybe you annealed a piece of steel to make it easier to machine, then hardened it for durability. Paint a picture with those real-world examples.
And surface grinding. How do you highlight your experience there?
Similar to heat treating, highlight the types of grinding machines you've used and the specific techniques. Have you used surface grinding to hit those super tight tolerances on a critical die component? Or maybe you used it to create a flawless mirror-like finish on a mold. Share those details.
And of course, we can't forget about those follow-up questions.
Right. Be ready to talk about different grinding reels and when you'd use them. They might ask about the challenges of getting those superfine surface finishes or the quality control steps you take to make sure your heat treating and surface grinding are giving you the results you want every time. It's all about showing them you're a pro who sweats every detail.
Okay, we've covered a ton here. Before we move on, let's recap how RoleCatcher's AI can help you prep for these questions and really make your answers pop.
Absolutely. Remember, RoleCatcher is more than just a list of questions. It digs into the job description you're after and uses its AI magic to suggest which skills you should be talking about.
It's like a cheat sheet tailored to the exact job you want. Talk about a game changer.
Exactly. And don't forget about the AI feedback on your practice answers. It helps you spot areas you can improve from what you're saying to how you're saying it. So you walk into that interview feeling confident and ready to crush it.
All right, let's take a quick one.
I kind of catch our breath. We just went through a lot of technical stuff. So let's switch gears for a second, talk about something that might not seem obvious at first: communication.
Interesting. Tool and die making seems so hands-on, so technical.
Yeah.
Why is communication so important in this field?
It's actually more collaborative than people think. Tool and die makers are always interacting with engineers, designers, machinists, the whole team. Being able to communicate clearly, both talking and writing, is super important to make sure everyone's on the same page and projects go smoothly.
So it's not just about running the machines.
Mhm.
You got to explain your ideas, understand instructions, break down those technical details for people who might not be as familiar.
Exactly. And that's what interviewers are trying to figure out with these questions about your communication skills.
Okay, so let's say they ask you this one. It's a mid-level question. Can you describe a time when you had to explain a complex technical concept to someone who wasn't familiar with tool and die making? How do you even start with that?
This is your chance to show them you can take something complicated and make it easy to understand. Think of a time when you had to explain something like heat treating or progressive die design to someone outside the field. Maybe you were training a new person or working with someone from a different department. How did you make sure they got it?
So it's about storytelling again, but focusing on how you communicated those ideas clearly.
Right. Walk them through it. What was tricky about explaining it, and then the steps you took to make it click. Did you use analogies, visuals, simple language? Did you check in with them to see if they were following along? The key is to show you can adjust how you communicate based on who you're talking to.
Makes sense. Be specific. Use examples connected back to the core skills. What about follow-up questions here? What if they want to know more about your communication style?
They might ask about technical writing, have you created manuals or instructions or training stuff? They might ask how you handle conflicts or disagreements that come from people not understanding each other. Be ready to talk about listening skills too. How do you make sure you're really getting what someone's saying? And how do you give feedback that's helpful?
It sounds like good communication in this field is about way more than just knowing the technical stuff. It's about being flexible, being a good listener, and building those relationships with your coworkers.
Exactly. And don't forget, RoleCatcher's AI can help you look at specific job descriptions and figure out which communication skills to highlight. You can tailor your answers to what that company is looking for.
Let's shift gears now and talk about a question that's all about safety. Can you describe your experience with lockout-tagout procedures? Safety is a huge deal in tool and die making. But why is this specific procedure so important?
Lockout tagout is all about preventing those accidents and injuries. It's about making sure the machines are totally off before anyone starts messing with them, for maintenance or repairs. It's crucial in any factory, but especially in tool and die making, where you've got powerful equipment and sometimes dangerous materials.
So when they ask about this, they're not just looking for a basic definition. They want to see that you get it, you take safety seriously.
Exactly. They want to know that you prioritize safety for yourself and everyone around you.
So how do you answer this in a way that shows you know your stuff and that you're committed to safety?
First, explain what lockout tagout is for, in your own words. Show them you understand why it matters. Then describe the steps involved. Really emphasize why each step is there, like identifying all the power sources, isolating them, verifying the machines off, and then putting those locks and tags on to prevent someone from accidentally turning it back on.
Attention to detail is key here, I'm guessing.
For sure. This is where being meticulous really helps. Mention any specific training you've had and talk about how you've actually used lockout tagout. Did you ever have to correct someone who wasn't following the rules? Those examples show you're a leader when it comes to safety.
And those follow-up questions, what if they want to go deeper into your safety practices?
They might ask about safety audits, or if you've trained others on lockout tagout, they might give you scenarios like, what if you see a machine that's not locked out properly? Be ready to show you can problem solve and think on your feet when safety's on the line.
Okay, let's move on to a question that's about working independently and managing your own tasks. Can you describe a time when you had to prioritize multiple projects with competing deadlines? This feels like a classic time management question, something that comes up in lots of jobs, not just tool and die making.
You're right, it's a common one. But it's super relevant here because tool and die makers are often juggling multiple projects, each with its own deadlines and challenges. They want to know you can stay organized, prioritize, and get things done under pressure.
So how do you answer this one to really show off those skills?
Pick a real example from your work where you had a bunch of demanding projects and not a lot of time. Describe the projects, the deadlines, the challenges, then walk them through how you prioritized everything, how you allocated your time, and how you kept things on track. Did you use any tools or techniques to manage it all, like project management software, or even just a good old to-do list?
It sounds like being able to adapt and adjust your plan when things change is important too. Because, let's be real, things don't always go according to plan in a busy manufacturing environment.
Exactly. Be ready to talk about what you did when priorities shifted or deadlines got moved up. Did you have to rethink your plan? Delegate tasks, work some extra hours to make sure everything got finished on time? Those details show you're flexible and you're committed to getting the job done.
Okay, I'm sure they'll have some follow-ups for this one as well. What should our listeners be prepared for?
They might ask about different project management methods or how you communicate with everyone to keep them updated on progress and any roadblocks. Be ready to talk about how you handle having lots of demands on your time and making sure nothing slips through the cracks.
Okay, let's look at a more technical question that might come up, especially if you're going for a job working with molds. Can you describe your experience with mold making and injection molding processes? This is pretty specialized. What if someone doesn't have direct experience with this stuff?
Honesty is the best policy here. Don't try to fake it if you haven't done it. Just acknowledge that you haven't worked with mold making or injection molding specifically, but say you're excited to learn.
So it's okay to say I haven't done that, but...
Exactly. But here's the key. Follow that up with what you do know. Maybe you've worked with similar processes or you understand the basics. Highlight your transferable skills, like learning new tech, quickly paying attention to detailed problem solving.
I like that. You're taking a potential negative and turning it into a positive by showing you're willing to learn and grow.
Yeah.
So what if they ask about a specific type of mold making, like die casting?
If you have experience with it, awesome. Describe your projects, the types of dies you've made, the challenges you faced. But if not, don't sweat it. Again, acknowledge that you haven't done it, but show you're interested in learning more.
So would you recommend doing some research on different mold-making techniques beforehand, even if you haven't done them?
Definitely. That way you can at least talk about the different processes, even if you haven't done them yourself. You could say something like, I've been reading about die casting, and it seems really interesting. I haven't had the chance to work with it directly, but I'd love to learn more and apply my skills there.
That shows initiative and a real interest in expanding your skills. Always a good thing in an interview.
Exactly. And don't forget, RoleCatcher can help you learn about these different techniques. Their career guide and those AI tools can give you insights into what employers are looking for so you can tailor your answers and really present yourself as a strong candidate, even if you don't have every single skill on the list.
Yeah, we've covered a lot today. Technical skills, communication, safety, time management, even how to handle questions about things you haven't done before. What other important qualities are interviewers looking for in a tool and die maker?
Problem solving is huge. We've talked about it a bit, but it's worth repeating. Tool and die makers run into problems all the time, so being able to analyze things, think critically, and come up with solutions is super important.
So how do you show those problem-solving skills in an interview? It's easy to say you're good at it, but how do you prove it?
Think back to times when you had unexpected problems at work. Maybe a machine broke down or a design flaw popped up last minute or a part arrived damaged. How did you handle those situations? What did you do to analyze the problem, get the info you needed, and come up with a plan? Those stories make your problem-solving skills come alive.
So it's not just about having the answer. It's about explaining how you got there.
Right. They want to see that you think logically, that you're resourceful, and that you can stay calm under pressure. They want someone who takes charge and isn't afraid of a challenge.
Okay, problem solving is a big one. What else should people be prepared to talk about?
Attention to detail is crucial too. Precision is everything in this field. So being meticulous and having an eye for those tiny details is a must.
Any tips on how to show that throughout the interview? It's not just about saying, I pay attention to detail, right?
Nope. It's about showing it. When you're describing your projects, focus on the specifics. Talk about the tolerances, the tools, the quality control measures. Show that you understand how important it is to get things right down to the tiniest detail, and of course, make sure your resume and cover letter are perfect. That's a basic but important way to show you care about the details.
All right. Problem-solving attention to detail. Got it. Anything else to add to that list?
Let's talk about teamwork. Even though tool and die making might seem like you're working alone a lot, we're actually part of a team. You're working with engineers, designers, other skilled tradespeople.
So how do you show your teamwork skills in an interview? Is it just saying, I'm a team player?
It's got to be more than that. Think about times when you had to work well with others to get something done. Maybe you had a complex project that needed input from different departments, or you had to troubleshoot something as a team. Describe those situations and what you did to help the team succeed.
What are some important things to focus on when you're talking about teamwork?
Your communication skills, your ability to listen to other people's ideas, being willing to compromise. Did you ever have to deal with conflicts on the team? How did you handle that? Did you take on a leadership role or mentor someone with less experience? Those are the kind of examples that show you can work well with others.
Well, we've talked about problem-solving, attention to detail, communication skills. Teamwork? Anything else to cover before we move on to the last part of our deep dive?
Yeah, I think it's important to talk about continuous learning in this field. Technology is always changing, and tool and die makers got to keep up.
So how do you show them that you're committed to learning and growing throughout your career?
Talk about how you stay updated on the latest trends in tech. Have you taken any courses or workshops or gotten any certifications? Do you read industry magazines or follow experts online? Sharing those things shows you're dedicated to learning new things and improving your skills.
I bet they'll have some follow-up questions about your learning goals and what you want to learn next.
Definitely. Be ready to talk about your professional development plans and how you see yourself growing within the company. Are there any areas you're interested in specializing in, like CNC programming, mold making, metrology? Having a vision for your future shows them you're ambitious and you're in it for the long haul.
We've covered so much today. Before we wrap up this part, I want to remind everyone about those awesome AI tools that RoleCatcher has to help you prepare for these questions and really nail your answers.
For sure. RoleCatcher doesn't just give you a random list of questions. Their AI looks at the job description and suggests what skills to focus on so you can tailor your answers to that specific job.
It's like having your own personal interview coach, giving you the tips and advice you need to impress the hiring manager. And don't forget to try out their AI feedback feature. Practice your answers, get feedback, and walk into that interview feeling confident and ready to rock it. All right, we're going to take a quick break to recap those great RoleCatcher resources one more time. You know, they've really put together a solid package to help you nail this interview. But before we wrap things up, I wanted to zoom out for a sec. What does all this mean for you as a candidate?
It means you're not just showing up, you're showing up ready. You really understand what this job is all about, those everyday tasks, the key skills, even some of the curveballs you might face.
We've broken down those tough interview questions, talked about how to handle them, even looked at some potential follow-ups. You've got strategies and real examples to make your answers stand out.
And don't forget that AI magic from RoleCatcher. It helps you fine-tune your answers, highlight your strengths, and practice, practice, practice until you feel like you can conquer anything.
Here's a final thought as you gear up for that interview. What kind of tool and die maker do you want to be? The industry's changing so fast with automation and all this new tech. It's a whole new ballgame.
Do you see yourself as the CNC whiz-the-mold master, the quality control expert who makes sure everything's perfect? That's the kind of self-awareness that'll make your answers even stronger. It shows the interviewer that you're not just looking for a job, you're building a career.
Now go out there and get that job. We're cheering you on.